Hey everyone, and welcome to our latest explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're going to unpack a true lost wonder of the ancient world. You know, when we think of massive historical structures, our minds usually jump straight to things like stone monuments, castles, or the pyramids, right? But what if I told you that Africa once had a wall system so massive that historians consider it one of the largest man-made earthworks ever built before the industrial age? Hidden right there in present-day Nigeria is a staggering engineering masterpiece that literally rivaled the greatest monuments on Earth. So get ready, because today we are uncovering the unbelievable story of the Walls of Benin.
Okay, let's dive right into this. 16,000. Take a second to really wrap your head around that number. That is the traditional estimate, in kilometers, of how far this enormous earthwork system stretched. I mean, we're talking about an expansive, sprawling network rolling across the landscape, all to protect one of Africa's greatest kingdoms. And honestly, the most mind-blowing part, this incomprehensibly massive system was built entirely without machines. Every single kilometer was crafted by human hands. It's just incredible.
Section 1. A forgotten ancient masterpiece.
So what exactly were they? Well, the Walls of Benin were an enormous, ancient network of man-made walls, moats, and ramparts. They surrounded the ancient capital of the Kingdom of Benin, which, by the way, is right around modern-day Benin City, as well as hundreds of the nearby settlements. Now, I really want to emphasize a key point here for us. This was not a stone wall. Unlike the fortifications you'd normally picture in Europe or Asia, these were earthworks. In fact, they represent one of the largest earthworks ever created by human hands, anywhere on the planet.
Millions of cubic meters of earth. I want you to really visualize this for a moment. Imagine standing out there in the hot sun looking at the monumental task of moving this staggering amount of soil. You've got no bulldozers, no cranes, no modern excavation equipment at all. This was pulled off through sheer human willpower, using literally nothing but basic wooden tools and woven baskets. The scale of the labor required to shift millions of cubic meters of earth is almost unfathomable, right? And it really speaks volumes about the dedication of the people who built it, generation after generation.
Section 2. The Mighty Benin Kingdom.
Let's see how this all builds together. Because to really understand the walls, we have to understand the magnificent civilization that required them. The Kingdom of Benin was an absolute powerhouse. It was established around the 11th century in what is now modern-day Nigeria, and it grew into one of West Africa's richest and most organized civilizations. They were famous for their incredibly skilled bronze artists, whose intricate works, by the way, are still marveled at today. But beyond the art, they were absolute masters of impressive urban planning. The kingdom was ruled by powerful kings known as Obas. And here's why the walls matter so much in this context. They weren't strictly just for military defense. These massive earthworks marked vast political boundaries, they effectively controlled and monitored really lucrative trade routes, and perhaps most importantly, they powerfully projected the absolute authority and wealth of the Oba across the entire landscape.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer contrast it presents. When European visitors finally reached Benin during the 15th and 16th centuries, they arrived with, well, certain preconceived expectations about what they were going to find in West Africa. But the reality completely stunned them. Instead of whatever they had imagined, they walked into this deeply organized, impeccably clean city. The visitors actually documented their amazement at finding wide, straight streets and these carefully planned, highly structured neighborhoods. But in-city was a metropolis that was, in so many ways, remarkably ahead of its time.
Section 3. Engineering the Great Walls.
So, how exactly does a society operating generations before the invention of modern construction equipment manage to physically pull off an architectural feat of this magnitude? Well, this brilliantly illustrates the sheer mechanics of the marvel. It was a rigorous, highly organized, three-step process. First, digging massive ditches into the earth. Second, moving all of that excavated earth entirely by hand, using only those woven baskets and simple wooden tools we talked about. And finally, meticulously piling that earth up to form towering, durable embankments. Thousands of workers spent their lives, and guys, this went on for generations, expanding, reinforcing, and maintaining these walls. It is a stunning testament not just to advanced ancient engineering knowledge, but to an intense, cohesive social organization that allowed millions of cubic meters of earth to be moved with total precision.
Section 4. The 1897 British Expedition.
Let's trace this out on a timeline to see the flow of history clearly. So, the massive undertaking of the wall construction actually began way back around the 9th century, which predates the formal establishment of the Kingdom of Benin in the 11th century. Then, for hundreds of years, the kingdom rose, thrived, and expanded, eventually leaving those 15th and 16th century European visitors in absolute awe. But this long, sweeping trajectory of growth comes to an abrupt and sudden halt at the end of our timeline, right in the year 1897, when British forces invaded.
So, the crucial point here is just understanding the historical facts of what happened next. During the Benin expedition of 1897, British forces launched a military invasion of Benin City, and the consequences were immediate and severe. Much of the royal palace was destroyed during the event. Countless priceless artworks, including those famous bronze pieces we discussed earlier, were looted. As for the great earthworks themselves, well, many sections of the famous walls were directly damaged, and over the subsequent decades, as the modern city expanded, even more of the walls simply disappeared, just swallowed up by new development. And honestly, this is precisely why this marvel is considered lost to the world today.
Section 5. Legacy of the Earthworks.
But the story doesn't completely end there. It's incredibly important to note that while the vast majority of the 16,000-kilometer system has vanished, it isn't entirely gone. Surviving sections of the original moats in earthworks actually still exist in and around modern Benin City today, and right now, archaeologists and historians are working hard to study and preserve these remaining traces. And this matters. It really matters because these surviving mounds of earth are so much more than just dirt. They stand out as an enduring symbol of Africa's rich, complex history. They're a physical reminder of the profound innovation, planning, and sheer determination of a people who engineered one of the world's greatest structures long before the dawn of modern technology.
The Walls of Benin absolutely prove that our world's past is filled with extraordinary achievements that still deserve global recognition today. It really makes you realize just how much of history is right beneath the surface, waiting for us to find it. Which leads us with one incredibly exciting question to think about. What other ancient African wonders are out there waiting to be rediscovered? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time as we uncover more fascinating truths hidden right in plain sight.